How do we make medical consumables more sustainable? This was the challenge that GaleMed set out to solve with the help of Gradical. And this Medica, GaleMed is going to present the BioVent-Circuit, the first bio-based anesthesia and ventilation circuit on the market. And I brought on the CEO of GaleMed, Thomas Willemsen. And Thomas is a senior executive in pharma and medical device, and he has led the strategic transition of GaleMed from a Me Too manufacturer towards a sustainable champion. In this episode, you're going to learn why GaleMed decided to develop an eco-consumable from a strategic perspective, what challenges they faced during the development and commercialization phases, how Gradical helped them overcome the plastic, regulatory, and sustainability expertise knowledge gaps that are so crucial for such a development, and why sustainability is a strategic long-term play and why you should start today. Here is our discussion. Hi, Thomas, and welcome to the podcast. I am very glad to have you on. Maybe you can introduce yourself and maybe also your company, GaleMed, quickly before we get into the topic of the BioVent-Circuit, which we are all excited for.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for having me on this awesome podcast. And I'm Thomas Willemsen. I'm the CEO of GaleMed. GaleMed is a Taiwanese company with manufacturing in China and Taiwan. And we manufacture consumables, basically everything that you need to connect a patient to a ventilator or an anesthesia machine. These are mostly made of plastic. And this can be anything from a hose to a connector to a filter to basically all these things that you need in the ICU setting or in the emergency setting to ensure that patients get air or that patients get gas to keep them alive or to give them treatment. And we do all of this. We have like more than 5,000 SKUs, and we've been doing this for about 40 years now. But I only joined the company about a year and a half ago. And I'm German, but I actually live here in Taiwan. I've been living in Asia for about 25 years plus, and I settled here. This is my home. I'm really glad to be on your show today.
Yes, perfect. So tell us what we're all excited to hear about the BioVent-Circuit. What is the BioVent-Circuit and what is so special about this?
So the BioVent-Circuit, the gist of it is a breathing circuit, an anesthesia circuit that is made of bioplastic. So basically, these anesthesia circuits are used only one time, and then they are usually burned for safety reasons, right? You can't really do reusable anesthesia circuits. It would be very difficult to clean these circuits with water and whatever. It would be very, very difficult and also very wasteful. So the easiest and the safest thing is to discard them. So they're one-time use. So you can imagine we are talking about a massive amount of plastic waste that is created because of the fact that you have these one-time use circuits. So there's literally there's millions. I think by the year 2030, it's 1.3 million tons of plastic waste that actually is related to this. And this, of course, will increase CO2 and global warming. And there really isn't much you can do about it other than changing the raw material. And what we have done, we have identified this as a great opportunity actually to set a new standard for the industry, is instead of using oil, that is, of course, the source of plastic, so fossil fuel-based plastic, we are using a bioplastic that's made of sugarcane. So our BioVent-Circuit is 84% made of sugarcane. And now basically you end up with a product that can enable you to have a circular argument. The sugarcane is a plant. The sugarcane absorbs CO2. You then make a plastic out of that sugarcane. It basically there's a manufacturing process to basically get the ethanol, the PE and the EVA out of the sugarcane. And that is made into the bioplastic pellets that we can then use to basically create the BioVent-Circuit. And in the end, of course, when it's used, it will be burned. And yes, there will be CO2 put into the atmosphere, but it's the same CO2 that had previously simply been taken from the atmosphere. So you actually end up with a negative balance versus a plastic circuit that actually, takes CO2 that comes out of the soil, the oil that's been stored there for millions of years, and blows it into the air. And that's where the big difference is. So, and then it becomes a bit technical on how we define that benefit. But very, very simply put, every circuit, a BioVent-Circuit, can save around a kilo of CO2. And if you put that into perspective of, is that a lot? Is that a little? A large hospital in Europe or in the US would use around 20,000 circuits for anesthesia per year. That means that's 20 tons of CO2 that you could save per hospital if you would use the BioVent-Circuit. 20 tons of CO2, that's what a middle-sized forest absorbs every year. So, I mean, it just gives you the dimension. I mean, you would have to plant hundreds of trees to get the same effect than using a BioVent-Circuit.
So the biggest advantage that we have here is that we're using a bio-based material, and instead of taking carbon that was previously in the soil, like gas, like oil, putting that out, making plastic out of it, and then pumping it into the atmosphere by incineration, we are using the CO2 that is already in the atmosphere and putting it through a circle and using that to make our BioVent-Circuit.
You put this much better than me and much more succinct, but that's exactly what it is.
Yes. Perfect. I mean, it was my daily business of explaining those things. So yeah, I'm very glad we made it so far. So you joined GaleMed in early 2024, and the BioVent-Circuit was just around the concept phase. We were finishing the concept phase at that point, and I was personally involved in the project beforehand. And then I think the project just got another drive when you came on board, because you just went all in on the eco-consumable and said this is going to be the strategic play that we're going to do. Tell us about what made you make that decision to go all in on the eco-consumable.
That's an excellent question, Lucas. And, it's kind of the question, really. It's the most important question, because it's about what's the future of GaleMed? What's the future of this company? You take the 10,000 feet above ground view on the industry, you see there is an industry that produces, to a large extent, generic products that are not very differentiated. And it's still a pretty scattered industry, so there will be consolidation going on. So the question is, where do you position yourself? What's your vision for the future? And we see there are 4 different potential directions that you can take as a company in the space of providing these plastic solutions. Either you can be a very much OEM focused, but pretty much undifferentiated player. That's where we are currently. That means you do a bit of everything, but you do it for mainly other companies. We are a contract manufacturer. 80% of our business comes from manufacturing other people's products. That positioning is okay. It's just, and we've been doing very well for 40 years, and most of our customers, we've worked with them for 20 plus years. The problem is it's not a very safe positioning, because eventually you can be replaced. Then you could actually try to be a kind of category leader, still OEM focused, but you could try to say, in this particular category, I have an edge. I'm better. I am the first. I set a new standard, which is actually an interesting direction that the company should take. There are other choices. You could also be focusing on OBM, which we call this the private label business. Then you kind of make products and sell directly to hospitals and have your own brand for that. And you can be very specialized like Ambu or Fisher-Paykel, or you can be more generalist like Intersurgical. We decided not to go to this direction. We're just not big enough for it because you have to be very, very large to be a kind of one-stop solution that sells to hospitals directly. You need to have a huge sales organization. We don't have that. And in terms of the branding and creating your own brands, well, we do have some brands. It takes a very long time to create branding. So we also thought this is not a quick fix. So my direction for the company strategy was, let us become category leader and let us choose what categories we could dominate. what we do, what we're very good at is making stuff out of plastic, circuits, extrusion. So we have all the technologies for that, masks, of course. And basically it's the business is basically circuits and the stuff that's at the end of the circuit that connects the patient. So the nasal cannula or the mask or whatever. So we do all of that. So when I came across this idea, we were just collecting ideas. We were just looking at the team and said, what can we do better than others? What do we do that nobody else is doing? The BioVent-Circuit was brought to my attention. And I immediately thought, this is a great idea because this is just the kind of product that I think the industry needs now, given the huge waste that we produce that we cannot avoid because safety cannot be compromised. So you have to do this one-time use. To use it with a material that enables us this circular use is fantastic. Then the question was, can we actually do it? Right? Because nobody has ever done it before. Why did nobody do it before? And so then we asked ourselves a lot of questions around what's the feasibility? Will hospitals be willing to pay more for a biocircuit? And of course, we're not in a big multinational company that can afford to do lots of market research. And, so I had to actually go and talk to customers. So the first thing I did really in the first couple of months of being here, I went to Europe. I went on a big tour for 1 month. I saw lots of customers and I pitched the idea to them. I said, we have this idea. We are at the very beginning of this development stage. At the time, we didn't even have a prototype yet, or we had a prototype, but it wasn't really great. It was actually quite wobbly and it didn't have the right stiffness. So we showed this to our customers and said, what do you think? This is made of sugarcane. And they initially were smelling on it and, like you said, like a smell or something. and we got some feedback. Oh, this is too wobbly. But by and large, especially in Europe, especially in Northern Europe, the feedback was very positive. And so I said, let's do it. Let's put our resources behind it. We, invited you to be our consultant and you've been instrumental in pushing this forward because there's a lot of things that can go wrong in a project like that. And that's why we're here.
Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about the customer feedback. You said, technically wasn't really there where you wanted it. It was a little too soft, but I think you visited, 12 customers in Europe? Like, give us a score out of 12. Which ones, how many did tell you that, this is something that is very interesting for us?
I would say 10 out of 12. It was really, really positive. However, there is also a little bit of a caveat with that because it's one thing to say, I'm very interested in a sustainable product, right? Many companies have this written in their vision statement or in their ESG pamphlet or whatever. It's another thing to actually say, I would like to buy a few 100,000 circuits a year. And it's therefore not so surprising to me that it did took us some time to get from I'm interested to I think I want to buy. And that was not always easy because obviously we thought, wow, this is a product that we can actually maybe get a premium for because it's innovative, it's new. But I think that will be a very limited opportunity. I think it's really more about gaining share in a market that is essentially quite cost conscious. So this is going to be about volume, not necessarily about premium. And that's now the question. Now the rubber hits the road. We are actually now sitting on our bags. We're packed up to go to Medica next week. I'm sure we're going to meet you there. And we will talk to lots of companies about this. Our booth will be one big sugarcane forest. And we hope we're going to meet a lot of people and tell them about this opportunity of a sustainable circuit, the first sustainable breathing circuit in the world, innovation at Medica. I think that's pretty awesome. And I'm also very confident that because we are having these conversations now with companies in Europe, that this will not just be a nice to have and an oddity, and no, it will become a standard. And eventually governments will pick up on this. And, especially in Scandinavia, they are very, very conscious on sustainability goals. And the big, large tenders are usually crafted around sustainability, among other goals. It's not just about money. It's also about, the sustainability. And therefore, I think, at some point there will be an actual, I wouldn't say a run for the product, but I think more and more companies will consider it. Having said that, we are OEM manufacturer. We do products for others. So, this is a branded product now from GaleMed, but I do not see its main value is not really in selling this product ourselves, but to sell the idea to our customers, because we are OEM manufacturer. And this is what I mean by category leadership. We want to become the leader of the sustainability category for breathing circuits. And then we have carved out something that makes us unique, and then we can drive growth from there.
Yeah, you perfectly articulated your strategy here, that your goal is to be the category leader in sustainable consumables for your niche, your ventilation and anesthesia circuit. But you mentioned something that really struck me, that is very, very, I think, interesting, and something that we should talk about. And that is, like, there is a gap between the vision statements that medical technology companies are putting out in terms of sustainability, and as you mentioned, the rubber hitting the road. You need to diffuse down the sustainability strategy from top level to down towards the actual procurement person that is actually then buying the thing. So this is an experience that I had a lot, also with podcast guests, is like in top management, there is like all these commitments to SBTi and sustainability, and sustainability is in our DNA, and we think in generations instead of quarters. And then like when it comes down to like rubber actually hitting the road, these goals are not like broken down towards an individual that is actually doing the procurement, because like the procurement guy is then sitting there and saying, okay, I really like your product. I think it's more sustainable. I would like to do it, but I have no incentive to do it, even if it's like a few percent points more. Like if it's 3, 4, 5% more expensive, I cannot do it because all my incentives say I need to go for cost. And that is really a challenge here.
Let me step in there and take the devil's advocate position, or, put myself into the shoes of my customers. It's not really fair to blame them, because in any company, there'll be conflicting priorities. And I think, I know we are talking to one of our very important customers about this. And, I certainly would have wanted them to agree to buy it for a higher price. But let's not underestimate the strategic willingness from a customer to embark on a new product. There's risks everywhere. And this is a very risk-averse industry. We're talking about healthcare, right? So we're talking about safety. We're talking about a product that will be connected to a very, very sick person. And also, let's not forget, whoever buys this product from us at large scale is a part of an OEM deal, so that it becomes their sustainability product, also takes on a huge commitment to validate, to promote, take the risk whether it actually is going to fly or not. Who knows? So I think we are a team in a way. We work with our customers together. We see ourselves really as an extension of the R&D team, or as the extension of the workbench. And, I actually feel, maybe we were a little naive to assume that, we can get a premium for this. And after a while, we realized that this is a very cost-sensitive market. And now I think that we have crossed this line, and our customer is actually now really excited about it. I think that they're going to not just procure a certain amount, they might just shift everything that we do for them into this biomaterial. And that will be a fantastic positioning for us to be in, like to be the sole bio-sustainability provider in this segment for this particular customer.
Yes. And I think I have a few points to add here. Number one is we need to get away from, and I think that this is what you're saying translated. We need to get away from this framing sustainability to be just ecology, more costly ecology. And I think we need everything. We need the profitability. We need the planet, the ecology, and we also need to take care of the patient, because the best and the most sustainable material is worth nothing in healthcare if you can't make it safe for the patient. And you need that trinity in order for a product to fly. And I think, what we are doing here, or what you are doing with the BioVent-Circuit, is like you're having a strategic, unique selling point that the customer cannot get anywhere else. So you're basically like, if they would want to change over from your BioVent-Circuit, so they go all in and then they try to change over to someone else. There is no one else that has this BioVent-Circuit. And so they cannot get the sustainability benefit or the ecology benefit from anybody else. And that really gives you a strong market position, and that gives you that will enable you to grab market share. I think especially in Europe where they have the tenders, or in the UK where they have the NHS having their net zero targets. Maybe let's talk a little bit about the rest of the world. So you did also do a tour through the rest of the world. How was the feedback there?
Yeah, good question. So I think in the US, I would say the response was mixed. Now, the US is a very, very large market. It's the largest market for us, of course. I mean, it's also a very big market in terms of space. So, you'd be surprised that most of the plastic waste doesn't even get burned. It actually gets, they put it into the soil and then sort of dump earth on it. So the mindset in the US is, of course, especially right now under the current administration, that global warming really isn't an issue. And there's nothing we have to do for that. Having said that, I mean, there are, of course, regions in the US where this is different. And I did talk to our top customers in Chicago. There are a lot of them in Chicago, but of course, I also went to some customers in California or in the Boston area. And there is interest. And they don't want to wait until the train has left the station. And in fact, do not forget those big US wholesalers all also have business in Europe. So I'm actually talking to US wholesalers maybe and say, let's start with Europe. That's why we go and file first MDR. And then, they might say, let's also try it in the US. Because at the end of the day, I mean, this is a very tough market for everyone, right? I mean, we're dealing with, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 companies that are doing what we do. Not a whole of a lot, but still probably too many. And there's a lot of competition. So to be different is interesting. And if you're different with let's say, competitive pricing, even better. And if it's not too complicated, because, there's nothing different from our circuit to another circuit. We don't have to train the nurse how to use it or anything. There's no different apparatus that need to be needed. Yeah, even better. So it purely becomes a competition for, is there a USP or not? And there are hospitals in the US, large hospital groups like in California or in Boston area and Chicago and other areas that have net zero targets, that have CO2 targets, that have, sort of a kind of strategy. And they all look for opportunities from a PR point of view as well. And I'm not, be very careful with the kind of greenwashing image that you can quickly trigger when you start using this. But there are not too many opportunities for a hospital to say, this is what we put on our agenda for our next year and what we can do to our annual report. This is what we're doing, in terms of doing something for the planet, right? I mean, we can plant some trees. Well, we could also buy the BioVent-Circuit. And so I think there's opportunity. I just don't think it's going to be the first year. The first year will be definitely Europe, but US normally picks up pretty quickly. And while I don't think it's going to be a mass product, it's going to be regionally isolated. I think that the opportunity in the US will be there. And that's why we're also now doing actually in parallel the FDA filing.
Yeah, I think one of the key important things that you're doing here is proving that it's possible. It's like when the first man ran a marathon under 2 hours. It's like everybody thought it wasn't possible to do it. Then one guy did it, and then the next week, the next guy did it. So it's you just need to show the world that it's possible, and then only good things will follow. I think pioneers, they are often rewarded with the benefits of being the first one to ever do it. So would you say, with what we have going on with the market launch and the customer interest and what we see until now, that this is going to be a success?
Look, I think we have all our ducks in a row. We have conducted all the necessary tests of biocompatibility, stability. We validated that this is a safe product, that this is a similar product that behaves exactly like any other, let's say, plastic circuit. We have the support from our biggest customer in Europe, and they want to go all in, which is a huge vote of confidence for us. The rest really is just going to be consistent and effective and efficient execution of communication and promotion. And I'm going to use next week's Medica for sure to talk to as many customers as possible about this. And it's not theoretical. It's actually already there. We're going to give them a sample and maybe along with our little sugarcane shaped pens. And we're going to see something happening. But if you ask me now for what's the incremental I expect for next year, it's hard to say, because even though our product is done more or less, if we now with a major customer, that means we have to still start all over, because that would be a new product that would now be manufactured for a customer. So that would have to be a new validation process and this and that. So this will take time. In this industry, nothing goes fast. But I am quite optimistic that there will be some, commercial. First, there will be some opportunities to sell the BioVent-Circuit in early next year.
Yes, I think what you mentioned there, and I think to summarize a little, I think the strategy is right, and you can tell me if you agree on that. But it's not only the strategy, but it's like the hard work and the consistent execution. Like, it's still a good strategy is the first step, but you need to put in the hard work. You need to have the knowledge. You need to bring everything together, and you need to go the extra mile and talk to all the customers. So it's still not having the right product and the right strategy is like the key to success, but you still need to back it up with all the work.
Drucker, who is a writer of many economics books, said execution eats strategy for breakfast. And the meaning basically, you can have an amazing strategy, but if your execution sucks, you're not going to go anywhere. Now, with a terrible strategy, even with a terrible strategy, with excellent execution, you're probably going to get somewhere. So at the end of the day, it is the nitty-gritty stuff that you cannot miss a step. And this is why we work with someone like you to make sure that we are not missing any steps. Because yes, everybody, I tell this story, they say, that makes a lot of sense. That's cool. It doesn't mean we're going to bring it over the line.
Yes. I mean, I would throw in another quote to counter yours. It's from Charlie Munger, the business partner of Warren Buffett. And he says, it doesn't matter how hard you row, it matters what boat you're in. And I think like strategy is the boat you're in, and how hard you row is the execution. If you hard row with the right boat, you're going to win. And I think someone with a good strategy and like mediocre execution, if you have shitty execution, it's not going to work. If you have mediocre execution, you're still going to win over someone with a really bad strategy with excellent execution. I think it has to be both. And I think we have everything in place to win. So I am very, very confident that this is going to be a hit. Is it going to be a hit tomorrow? I don't know. I think in 5 years, GaleMed is going to be very happy that they hired you as a CEO. That's my verdict. So looking back on how we collaborated on the BioVent-Circuit, what are some key ways that we helped move your project forward?
Yeah, I mean, developing a new product is tricky. And, as an expert in material science, you have given us a lot of valuable input, but not just basically on, advising and suggesting certain ways and procedures or sequences, but also just helping us with, I think, the more mundane organization of your steps. I mean, we have project managers and we have engineers, but it's not a given that somebody knows how to operate and, put together a Gantt chart and make proper time plans. And so I think that you helped us a lot with these steps as well, because at the end of the day, it's all about putting the information into a shape and format, and then drawing the right conclusions for it. And most importantly, that you have this kind of regular engagement, regular check-in to make sure that we don't drop the ball somewhere.
Yeah. I think that is very important. I think here the execution theme from before comes in. It's like you need to make sure that your execution is on point. However, it is also crucial to have the knowledge about the regulations, about the sustainability, about the plastic selection in-house, and to build that in-house, because if you want to long-term be the sustainable champion, you need to build that knowledge. And I think that is where I see my role as I would say like more as a coach, as a trainer, in order to bring that knowledge up, give you everything you need to know in the beginning so that you can be starting right away and you can be faster to market. But like building your knowledge towards a, I would say, sustainable, pun intended, level where you can keep that, and then you can be the sustainable champion you want to be.
And I mean, Lucas, I think what I also realized in this last year, a bit more than that, is because it's such a new space, right? The consumables or the sustainable consumables, there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety among our customers. What to pick? What do we need? What documentation do you need? Can I actually say that? Is this claim still okay? Who certifies that? It's not clear. I mean, and we had a long debate about ICC Plus certification and whether or not we need it. And intellectually, you often, you said that actually you don't really need it because you are really made of bioplastic. It's obvious. You can just do an analysis of the material and you will see your content. But it's also about managing the customers and, their risk aversity. And I think we now, decided on making sure we have the full ICC Plus certification, even though it is not really needed to prove our bio content. But we do it anyways, because eventually we think that, whatever standard is now in the market, we need to respect it. What you don't want is to tell people, oh, I'm very innovative, I'm very new, but I don't need that standard, so I'm not going to have that. That will immediately break the trust and make people feel suspicious. So we are creating the market as we go along. I mean, 5 years from now, people will know, oh yeah, of course you need this and you need that. And yeah, GaleMed of course had that, but wow, it's not so clear.
Yes. I think it's a lot of it is about clear communication and about educating your customers, not from let's say I'm the teacher and I know everything and I'm just going to educate you because you don't know nothing. It's not, you need to have it on eye level. However, it's about clear communication. It's about honesty, and it's about like having a very close contact, because as you said, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of uncertainty. And as you said, there's also a lot of greenwashing going on. Like everybody wants to sell their new sustainable green thing with no backup. And I think you need to make sure that it's all data driven and that you have the credibility you need in order to sell this. Because what you actually want to do, you want to do good for your customer. You want to add value. And of course, you need the marketing, you need the PR, because like in German, we have the saying, do good and talk about it. And I think you need to do both. You need to have the PR, you need to have the sales team, talk to the customer, clearly communicate what the benefits are. But you, on the other hand, have to stay very, very honest about what you can and cannot do. And then figure it out along the way. Because like if you're the first, nobody has a recipe for it. It's like you learn along while you do it. And I think that is a challenge. But if you have the right tools to bridge your knowledge gaps, it's all good. It's all there. What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a difficult job to create a new market, to create a new category. You will be met with resistance. Some people would say, oh, this is going to be too expensive, or we don't need this. I mean, let's take, for example, the embedded heated wire circuits category, right? I mean, this was a new category at the time. Somebody had the idea, let's make a circuit, let's have a circuit with embedded heated wires with temperature sensors on both sides, because it will reduce rainout, it will reduce condensation, it'll be more stable. And I'm sure a lot of people said, nobody's going to need this. This is way too expensive. We are very happy with our standard heated wire circuits or with our unheated circuits, and we just collect the condensing water in a little water trap. And this is the way we've always done it. It took time. It took probably a decade. And now it's a standard that everybody wants. And we are struggling because we don't have this technology. This is another project that we're working on to actually upgrade our heated wire circuits to this technology and actually create the next generation of these products with another innovation twist to it. But this is just what happens when you do not jump on the train in time. We are very, very late to that train. I hope that this BioCircuit, the BioVent-Circuit, will become another train. Right now, we are sitting on this train alone, and it's a small train. And, maybe people are laughing and saying, this is never going to work. But once we pick up speed, and more passengers are getting on the train, then people will say, wait a minute, I want to be on that train too. At the beginning is tough. is tough. But then, hey, nobody said it was going to be easy to create a new category.
Yeah. I think you mentioned something that I really, really love is like, we have always done it like this. Those are famous last words of innovation in your company. That's one of the most widespread mindset issues in medical technology. We've always done it like this. Yeah, but you still have problems. Like we've always done it like this means that it always has been perfect, and you dare criticize the state of the art.
I think the challenge, for the BioVent-Circuit is that, of course, and this is, of course, the big challenge of the entire sustainability discussion. If I compare it to the embedded BioVent-Circuit, the embedded BioVent-Circuit fixes an apparent medical, physical problem. A circuit that's not properly heated will have condensation, and you need to collect the water somewhere. And it's just extra work. It's troubling. It could even be risky, if there's infection or something like this. You don't want water anywhere near the patient. So they fix a problem. We are helping to manage, let's say, CO2, going more CO2 into the atmosphere. We are providing a solution to global warming. But this is not going to save a patient or help a nurse to do a procedure faster. So the benefit is a bit more difficult to explain. However, I think it still is good to do it, and I think it can actually be absolutely worth it because of the sheer volume of plastic waste. So it is a more indirect benefit, but nonetheless, I think it's a question of tapping into trends, and we feel it's a strong trend. It's just not very strong yet in medtech.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the trinity I mentioned in the beginning. It's the patient benefit, profitability, and the planet. And those are the three top priorities in this order. It's like patient benefit is number one at the hospital. So if you can do better for the patient, better outcomes, that is the number one selling argument. Then, of course, price needs to be okay because like healthcare is under huge pressure to cut cost. And then environmental. And we're talking mostly about waste because this is what I can see. I think if you come to the medical technology companies, it's more about CO2 because they're all in the like reporting, in the CO2 reporting mindset. I think in the hospitals, they're talking more about waste because this is what I can see. This is what I can feel on their balance sheet. Yeah. So I think it comes down to this. You need to have all three benefits, and like the more benefits you can bring on these three dimensions, the better your device is going to sell. And you just need no sticking point of one of those. So like if the benefit for the patient isn't there or it's worse, that's a sticking point. If the cost is too high, that's a sticking point. But also, and that you need to mention that if you have a new product and you want to get in a new market or in a new hospital, the sustainability is going to be a sticking point for you. So you will eventually need to have it in order to get in because it will be a prerequisite and it will be about complying to the state of the art. And you're currently setting a new state of the art.
Exactly. So that's the future, right? The future state is that this is a threshold and people will, basically have to apply that. And then of course we will be the one who have established that. So I completely agree with that because, I think many companies are talking about CO2 and there are of course other avenues to show that you are trying to save the planet. You can use other kinds of energy sources for your factory. You can use less air travel and more shipping and whatever. You can think about transportation. You can think about storage. You can think about energy. And there are ways that you can say, I do this now in a more eco-friendly way. But none of these comes anywhere near selecting a new raw material that is made of plants. So all of these are just scratching the surface of the real impact that you can have. And that's why we often talk about this 1 kilo, which of course is arbitrarily chosen. I mean, there are many different circuits will have different CO2 balance. I mean, one circuit may be more than 1 kilo, one maybe less. But the point is, it's just that 1 kilo is so easy to remember because everybody knows how many circuits you need a year. I mean, it's like we know that a hospital needs tens of thousands a year. So, you come up with this very simple way to say, well, you could save tons a year if you would change your sourcing and it wouldn't have to cost more. But we just want to get in. right? Because we want the volume in the end. It's a volume business. And the more volume in this market we can get, the less we'll be challenged with higher raw material costs, because obviously that will bring the price of the bioplastic down. So we see ourselves, in this sustainability environment quite as a unique player right now, because we bring some kind of breakthrough innovation that goes far beyond kind of choosing different kinds of energy or choosing whatever, making sure you have only paper cups in the canteen and something like this. This is really minor.
Okay, cool. Yeah, perfect, Thomas. So let's come to the last question. What advice would you like to give to our listeners in regards to sustainable medical consumables?
I hope that everybody enjoyed the conversation. By the way, I think you're a very good host, and you've brought up some really good questions and topics for today. Think of sustainability really as a opportunity. There's this negative image of greenwashing, and I think also in a way the question of daily politics, is global warming a hoax or not? I mean, it is undeniable that, and it's very logical that, you can only put so much CO2 in the atmosphere. And so this idea of just manufacturing more and more plastic products and throwing them away, it doesn't take a genius to say that can't be right, that can't be good. So how do we go about it to at least, use plant-based plastic rather than oil-based plastic as a first step to be more environmentally friendly and to create this kind of balance of CO2?
Yes. I love this advice. So thank you very much, Thomas. Do you have any last words?
No, I'm looking forward to see, our customers and new customers next week. I'm looking forward to see you next week. I will fly there, which is economic, which is not good for the environment. That's what I said. We can't be too extreme. I can't take the train to Germany. But look, I've been really enjoying working with you, and it's been a pleasure to have this conversation today. I would love to come on this show again, maybe a year from now, when I can tell you something about our huge commercial success. And MedTech is a fun place to be in. There's a lot happening. And it's a very meaningful place to be in, because, we save lives and we help our patients to recover and do better. And that's why I'm very proud of doing what I do.
Yes, that's why our motto is Form a Better World with Plastics. So this was Thomas Willemsen. He's the CEO of GaleMed. And until the next time.
Goodbye. Thank you.